Before Islam, before the Ottomans, before any empire you might recognize on a map, there existed a people so fierce, so mobile, and so brilliantly adaptive that they shaped the destiny of 3 continents. Who were the original Turks, and why does almost nobody talk about what they built before they embraced the faith that would define them? The story of the pre-Islamic Turks is one of the most overlooked chapters in all of human history. And it begins not in a palace, not in a city, but on the endless, windswept grasslands of Central Asia. The Turks emerged from a vast geographic region known as the Eurasian steppe, stretching from modern-day Mongolia all the way to the Black Sea. This landscape shaped everything about them. With no natural borders, no permanent rivers to rely on, and brutal seasonal extremes, survival demanded constant movement, extraordinary skill on horseback, and iron social discipline. The earliest known Turkic-speaking peoples appear in historical records around the 6th century, when the Göktürk Khaganate rose to power in 552 CE. But their roots go much deeper, intertwined with earlier nomadic confederations like the Xiongnu and the Huns. The name Turk itself, in its earliest form, likely meant strength or power. And strength was exactly what they had. The founding leader Buman Khagan united fragmented steppe tribes and declared an empire stretching from China to the borders of Persia. Within a single generation, the Göktürks had become the dominant force of the entire Asian continent. At its height, the Göktürk Empire stretched across an almost unimaginable territory, nearly 6,000 kilometers from east to west. But this was not simply a civilization of endless warfare. The pre-Islamic Turks developed a rich and sophisticated culture that historians are only now beginning to fully appreciate. They had their own writing system, known as the Orkhon script, named after the Orkhon Valley in present-day Mongolia. The Orkhon inscriptions, carved into stone monuments in the 8th century, are among the earliest written records in any Turkic language, and they contain something remarkable. They are not just royal proclamations. They are philosophical reflections on leadership, loyalty, and the relationship between a ruler and his people. One inscription, attributed to the great general Tanukuk, reads almost like a political manifesto, warning future generations not to forget their own identity and language. These were not people without thought. They were people without cities, and that is a very different thing. Their spiritual life was shaped by Tengriism, a belief system centered on the sky god Tengri, the sacred blue eternal sky that arched above the steppe. Shamans served as bridges between the human world and the divine. Sacred mountains, rivers, and ancestors all played vital roles in daily spiritual practice. The Turks also practiced a deeply codified social system. The Kurultai, a grand assembly of nobles and military commanders, made major decisions collectively. Women in early Turkic society held remarkable status compared to many contemporary civilizations. Hatans, or noble women, participated in councils, rode horses into battle in some accounts, and governed territories in the absence of their husbands. But empires on the steppe were volatile by nature. The Göktürk Khaganate split into eastern and western branches, weakened by internal rivalry and Chinese diplomatic manipulation. The Tang dynasty of China played the Eastern Turks against the Western branch with calculated patience, and by the early 8th century the First Göktürk Empire had collapsed. Yet this was not the end. From the ashes rose new Turkic powers. The Uyghur Khaganate replaced the Göktürks and brought a more settled cultural influence to the steppe, even adopting Manichaeism as a state religion for a period. The Karluks, the Kipchaks, and eventually the Oghuz Turks continued the legacy, with the Oghuz branch eventually transforming into the Seljuks and, centuries later, the Ottomans. The legacy of pre-Islamic Turkic civilization is woven into the DNA of modern nations. The written language foundations they established influenced over 30 living Turkic languages spoken today from Turkey to Siberia to the Caucasus. Their military innovations in cavalry tactics were copied and adapted by every major power from China to Rome. Their concept of sacred kingship, where the ruler held a divine mandate from Tengri, echoed in both Islamic sultanates and medieval Christian monarchies that followed. Perhaps most powerfully, their identity survived. Despite conquest, migration, religious conversion, and the passage of over 1,000 years, the Turkic peoples never disappeared. They transformed. History does not always remember those who left no pyramids, no marble temples, no perfectly preserved cities. But the pre-Islamic Turks left something harder to destroy than stone. They left a people, a language, a way of thinking about freedom and sky and power that still pulses through the modern world, often unrecognized, always present. Subscribe to Kadim World for more hidden history.